Welcome to the Cherry Picker, the horror movie podcast where we like to kill people, but not really. I'm your host, Zach Cherry. With me as always is...
You look like a nun! Eddie of Edward is Truth.
And today we're talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, released August 11th, 1989.
Yeah.
Back when the titles were long.
Oh, this is nothing.
Yeah. I know. I mean... Even like I Know What You Did Last Summer was a long title for what, like 8 years later. Yeah, so we're of course making our way through the Nightmare movies, and we've kind of been doing them in tandem with the Friday the 13th. I think it was a few months ago we did Friday Part 5. So you actually reminded me that we needed to cover this movie, and I feel like subconsciously I was putting it off because normally we do it at least like the next month.
Sure.
But here we are. And let me just say it definitely felt like a chore because I did watch this recently.
Okay. Oh, I see.
Yeah. Just because I was wanting to watch all the movies on their own anyway. So I think when we did Part 4, that was around the time that I had watched 5, 6 and so on. And yeah, in tradition for the Cherry Picker, I will tell you what my up to date ranking is of like the movies that we've covered, and I'm eager to hear yours. But should I go first?
Yes. All
right. So going from the top to the bottom, Nightmare 3. Nightmare 1, and those are interchangeable. Like it really depends. After that would be Nightmare 4, then Nightmare 2, then Freddy versus Jason, which we covered out of sequence, and then Nightmare 5 at the bottom.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Mine, I think it had already fluctuated once because I think when we first started doing this, I think around the Freddy, or once Freddy versus Jason and Nightmare 2 were on the table, I think they've been my interchangeable ones and have swapped places at least once. Because for the most part, I think I put... Well, anyway, it doesn't matter what I did before. Where I have it now, just after consideration... because I always love to reconsider. I'll go from bottom to the top.
Right.
Freddy versus Jason at the bottom, based on what we've seen so far. Just less substance. I mean, then above that, Freddy's Revenge, because yes, it's a little bit more grating emotionally. It's hard to watch Jesse go through all that, but oh my god, the inventiveness and the fun. Like it's more fun and less bloated for me than Freddy versus Jason. Then above that, I would put Dream Master by a pretty wide margin. I like Dream Master a lot. And then above that, I'd put this, Dream Child. And then above that, I'd put the OG. And then above that, at the top, of course, Dream Warriors.
So you're quite a fan of this one, then?
I am, and I feel like I'm the only one.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll get into, because I think that there's elements of this that I think are probably the strongest of the franchise.
Okay.
But you know me, like usually it comes down to the timeless Alfred Hitchcock quote as just like the 3 most important things about a film. And I may be misquoting this, but the 3 most important things about a film are the script, and the script. And by God, this script is not good. It's kind of a slog to get through, or really comprehend a lot of. I mean, it's very simplistic, but it's just like there's a lot of exposition, that like a heavy reliance on it, and just like a lot of just, moving from like one like scene to the next, but never really like moving away from like the same idea. Like there's nothing new that's really being discovered at any point throughout. Like we know from the get-go of just like sort of Amanda Kruger she's in the tower. We have to come see her. It's almost like I'm thinking of Suspiria, where at the very beginning Susie overhears Pat on her way out of the academy saying the iris, the blue one, turn it or whatever, but we don't hear it at the beginning. Like it's just like because it's obscured by the rain, and throughout the movie, it's sort of like her memory is coming back to her of what she heard. And then it's like kind of applied to like what context does this have to do with anything until like we get to the end of the movie, and then she understands, and like, you know, we as an audience with her, what that means and helps her find that secret passageway. Now, Suspiria is a very underwritten movie in terms of the story. Like it's pretty simplistic, but I feel like it's you look at something like here where, you know, it's presented to you at the beginning, just like she's in the tower, go find her, whatever, and Alice chooses to, I guess, like not comprehend that or whatever, and then they spend the entire movie putting it together, I guess, in true Alice slash Cindy Campbell, Anna Faris fashion, because we did make the correlation that she's got a little Anna Faris quality going on with her.
I mean, a bit of a breathy voice, and she's much blonder in this one than she was in the last movie. So yeah,
it's the evolution. But just like, what was the moment in 4 that it really like sold it for me, when she's just like,
yes,
wait a minute, I don't smoke.
Yes,
just
but breathier. I don't smoke. Yeah. It's fun.
But anyway, yeah, it feels like there's much ado about nothing, and that's what kind of drags this down for me. And it's very dour. There's very little fun, and when it is fun, it's like cringe. So yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to hear about that.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think I can suspect at least one moment where we might share that. I don't really cringe, but I do go like, oh. I kind of, you know, tilt my head and crinkle my nose a bit, which maybe that is cringe. Is that cringe? I guess so. But
yeah, I guess. I mean, I think you're full of cringe. You have a lot of moments where you express the cringe. So yeah, you're not above it.
Yeah, no, it'll happen. It'll happen. Yeah. And I do want to say, like, even though, I mean, I'm largely a huge fan of Part 5s in many franchises anyway. Not every single one. It's not like because I think the one that we came to, oh, which one was it? Was it Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which technically the 5th movie
is the remake?
Remake, which I like, but I know a lot of people favor it to the OG, which I do not.
With that franchise, it is very difficult to like really like assign a number to anything, because it's, you know, there's like every movie starts a new timeline, it seems.
Right.
So
it's like let's make a movie called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre and put Leatherface in there, and that's usually the only thing. Yeah, like that any of the movies have in common.
It is the de facto 5th film, but it is not like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 5, the Jessica Biel Chronicles. Right. You know, like.
I mean, technically, if we're going off of a continuity and a timeline, I guess Texas Chainsaw 3D is the 5th in that continuity. So I guess I am a Part 5 apologist then, because I really love Texas Chainsaw 3D. But this is one of those that I remember being shocked when I heard how many people disliked it, like all these dissenting opinions about it, and how it was regarded as like the weakest chapter, at least thus far in the franchise.
Well, I don't agree with that, because, you know, there's a few more that we get to cover, and I think that this one will, you know, kind of move up the ranks for me at least. But the one aspect where this movie, I feel, transcends all of them is the art direction. It is like this movie has a visual identity, and not that the other ones don't, but like it's so strong in this one. Like they put so much work into it. And I was looking at the budget, of course, like the budget versus box office ratio, and at the time this was the most expensive one. Like it gradually progressed. I think the first Nightmare was, you know, somewhere between $1 and $2 million. And, you know, it grossed a lot more. This one was $8 million, and it made 22. So kind of, you know, it still made money, but a lot less than the previous ones had before that. But what's interesting to me, or at least like from my perception of this franchise, a criticism that I had for Dream Master, which I feel is like a very like it's a good benchmark for what this franchise is. Sort of like, you know, if you're just looking for like sort of like the flashy like MTV of it all, which was kind of like almost associated with the franchise for the longest time, and like probably still is. I think that's probably a good like entry level movie for someone who's just like doesn't know what Nightmare is, and like, you know, put that one on. It wouldn't be my first recommendation, but it's easy because it's like there's not really a lot of plot to it. So that was actually a criticism that I had of it. It's just like it just feels kind of generic. There's nothing like really to the lore of Freddy. So in a way, it's like, I don't know if that was a complaint that people had at the time, and then when they came around to making 5, they heard the voices of people being like, oh, we need to like infuse more lore into this movie, and they almost went overboard with it.
I mean, it didn't help this film at all, I think, in the production of it, or even at the box office, just versus time, and in terms of like audiences, what's appetite for this franchise, because it was released within a year. They were released 88 and 89, 4 and 5 were, but still less than a year apart. People hadn't even had time to really fully kind of like hone and, you know, like internalize 4 yet. So by the time the 5th one came out, I think people were kind of like, oh god, already another one. Like Freddy Mania, I think, hit its peak and started to crest with this picture, unfortunately.
And we also have to remember that like 88 and 89 also saw Halloween 4 and 5 and Friday the 13th part 7 and 8. So like a huge kind of surge of just like these like endless sequels. So I could see how there might be some fatigue, and especially with the 89 sequels, it feels like, you know, even though, you know, speaking of 5th entries that people hate that we love, like Halloween 5, you know, can do no wrong by me, but you know, it's a you know, a really hated movie, and I think that a lot of people feel the same way about this one, and also Jason Takes Manhattan. So like all of the 89 movies just seem to have that streak of bad luck in terms of I guess critical and audience consensus.
And also the MPAA really started reining them in around that time too. If you look at every one of those movies that you mentioned that were released in 89, you can tell there was so much more footage that was shot on every single one of them that ended up getting pulled back because censors started really cracking down on horror. Like, you know, it started swinging in the kind of more conservative direction, and you know, that's something that's makes me sad too, because in the Never Sleep Again Legacy documentary, when they cover this, they actually do have footage. I wish there would be a release, which we'll get to in a second, but that had the deleted footage, even if it weren't like reincorporated into the movie. I mean, I would love that, but even if they just had it available, it's never been released, and they had it in that documentary where you could literally see it side by side, the shots as they were originally envisioned for some of these kills, and where it would cut off in the theatrical releases. And it would be like you just get to something like really visceral and gory, and it would just cut away to like a reaction shot. I think it's still moderately effective. It doesn't ruin the film for me, but I love the grossness, you know. So I just want to wince even more. I want to cringe in a good way.
We're missing and I forget the character's name, but like the one who was doing the bench press where she turned into the bug and had the arms.
Was it Debbie?
Debbie, yeah. I think she was our cherry on top. How dare I forget our cherry on top? All right, well, let's just do some quick housekeeping here. But if you are new to the Cherry Picker podcast, welcome. Every month, once a month, we have a bonus episode called the Cherry Picker After Dark, which can be accessed on my Patreon account. So patreon.com/ZachCherry, ZACKCHERRY. So if you are supporting on the Freddy Krueger tier, you'll get access to that. Last month we did Fuck, Marry, Kill, the Scream edition, which is pretty self-explanatory. But you know, if you want to check out the preview, that is at least in this queue of podcast episodes, or on YouTube if you're checking it out there. Also, if you're supporting at any tier on Patreon, you'll get early access to all of our episodes. So any and all support that you guys offer us is really appreciated. It goes a long way in making this podcast what it is. And with that said, I want to thank some Patreon supporters. So thank you to the Michael Myers tier supporters: Kyle Beard, Maxime Rivest, Ali Hamouche, Shane Allingham, Tim McKay, Stephanie Starbright, Horror Slut 95, Bruce the Genetic, Jack Hammer Rando, Gary Blasick, Josh Carr, Michael Boswell, and then Ghostface supporters. Thank you, Eric Champney, Sam Levy, Daniel Saturn, Baby Ghoul, Garrison Nichols, and Craig Lynn. And also, thank you to our podcast editor, Jason Voorhees Galatello, who, without him, this would not be possible. So thank you, Jason, for all your hard work every week. With that said, do you have a premise that you would like to grace us with, Fair Edward?
I do. All right. Having survived her last standoff with Freddy Krueger, Alice Johnson gets a familiar feeling as her dreams begin to intensify, splintering her waking reality with dark fantasies of Krueger's birth, until Freddy gains re-entry through the sleeping mind of Alice's unborn child, attempting to make A Nightmare on Elm Street the dream child. Huh?
Yeah.
I made it a sentence.
You did. Very good. Well, some versions, like, I don't think it says 5 in the credits.
It doesn't.
Yeah. So, and the same thing. No. With Halloween 5, it was just Halloween 5. There was no The Revenge of Michael Myers. That was like a VHS or poster thing.
Everybody getting revenge.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, some of the franchises around this time, they caught on, like, no, they don't like numbers. And especially
we
with
like subtitles.
Yeah, especially with the fifth entries. I mean, like Scream, I guess 2022.
5 Cream.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it.
I love calling it 5
5
Cream.
Cream.
Also, if anybody wants to watch this, it has been available streaming on Netflix and Max in the past, but as of the time of this recording, it's not available anywhere. You can find it. Yeah, I mean, you can individually rent it on your favorite platform where you do that kind of thing, but it's not on any subscription platform at the moment. And as far as releases, it's still pretty much confined to this original 2012. There was a 2019, a little bit more condensed, less special features edition than the one that I'm holding in my hand, the Nightmare on Elm Street collection.
I heard that they're all getting 4K releases.
Oh, I hope so. And I hope they all come in a great big old box, because like Halloween got it, Friday the 13th got it, so come on.
Well,
come on.
That was Scream Factory, so I don't know if they have the distribution rights to it.
I don't know.
I didn't care for the Friday box set though. There wasn't like really all that much in it in terms of just like new or interesting features. It just seemed to be a lot of like the same bullshit that we've seen before. Like I'm happy for it, but and there was also a lot of technical issues, but like that Halloween set is god tier. I don't think that they've been able to top themselves with that. I mean, they do have the 4K releases, which of course I've double and triple and quadruple dipped at this point.
Of course.
Yeah. So I can talk shit about them. They have my money, you know.
Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah.
So, do you remember the first time you saw this one?
Oh God, no. I mean, we've talked about this. Like, A Nightmare on Elm Street is not my wheelhouse franchise. Like, it's not even my second or third or fourth. Like, I much prefer Friday the 13th. Like, I know I have very basic tastes in that regard. I never really caught on to like the appeal that, you know, a lot of people get or that you get from these movies. I really love what I like to call the Nancy trilogy.
Of course.
So obviously 1, 3, and New Nightmare, which we haven't
Nightmare, yeah.
covered yet. But like to me, that is this franchise, and everything else is sort of it's there, and like I don't really go out of my way to watch them unless I'm doing some sort of marathon or this podcast. So, and even like Freddy versus Jason, which I mean I know it's more of a nightmare movie, which is probably why it's not as special to me. But even then, it doesn't feel the same. Like it doesn't have that je ne sais quoi. That's even though I rank Freddy versus Jason above this because I think that it's more entertaining for me at least. I still think that this triumphs over that just based on the 80s of it all and the art direction and just like how it feels like a genuine Nightmare on Elm Street entry.
I mean, of course I agree with that. I think the first time I experienced it was when I was renting these, making my way through all the entries that I hadn't seen prior to that as a teenager. I think I was New Nightmare was 1994 release. Yeah, because it was right after the earthquake in Northridge, which is right around the corner from me. But I remember New Nightmare was on the horizon. I was kind of familiar, but hadn't seen these movies since third grade. And I asked my sister, who was just getting into horror at that time, do you want to like burn through all the VHSs of the previous releases and then go see New Nightmare? And she was like, yeah. And so we rented them 2 at a time, like watched 1 and 2 in one night, 3 and 4 in another, and 5 and 6 in another. And maybe it also just helped by comparison because I don't really favor 6, but I do like. So 5 was still like on an upswing for me because it also did, again, as far as continuity, just seemed to connect really, really cleanly with where we had just come. I love that we were following Alice because I really liked how she triumphed at the end of 4. So getting to see her end up with Dan and and even kind of like see her shift because she was barely a person in the beginning of 4. She was just, I mean, I think I made a Sissy Spacek illusion, but she was kind of like an idea, like an impression of a Sissy Spacek. Like I can still really, really enjoy it when I watch it. And I love Lisa Wilcox and what she did, but just a character walking around having daydreams, and then
I love like you're never too far away from Jennifer Tilly.
Gina Gershon was fingering me.
There's different levels. You have your Lisa Wilcox. You've got your Jennifer Tilly.
If we could somehow get like a Chucky Masterpiece Theater where they do like their takes on these franchises, and Jennifer Tilly step in as Alice, while Chucky steps in for Freddy, and have them replay some of their things, I would love to see.
Or we just need a movie with Jennifer Tilly, Lisa Wilcox, Julie Benz.
Oh, Julie Benz, yeah, she's kind of there too, a little bit more nasal, and then
Foxy.
Yeah, acting, and then but it's Foxy, but. Jesus Christ. It's so easy for us to get derailed. Anyway. But I love...
That's the fun of it, though.
I know, it's true. But what I do love is seeing her feel like a full-fledged human being in this. She seems incredibly capable. I even remember being so reassured after the that opening sequence with the blue bodies colliding with one another and everything. And then for her to go in and have that nightmare, we can dive back into that, but I remember just thinking, there she is when she wakes up out of the nightmare, goes to the shower after she's just had this situation where she was trapped in her nightmare, and she reaches for to turn the faucet on, and then she kind of pulls her hand back and looks at it like, do I really want to do that? And then just kind of shakes it off like, I'm awake, I gotta live my life and everything. And I was just like, yeah, I don't want her just to go in and like, hum-de-dum-de-dum, I didn't have a nightmare, I'm not scared of anything. I was just like, no, you've been through this before, and something's not quite right with these. My dreams don't usually feel this way. And even when she's telling Dan, like, I didn't feel like I was in control. The fact that she's craving control, that she likes being in a position of power as far as her own fate. She seems so passive in the last movie. I love how, I mean... arguably proactive she is, I guess, in comparison. And it's not because she's absorbing the spirits of her friends this time. It's because she's just kind of growing up, and in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, but arguably you can also say that the version of her, like, that where the movie started off with 4, by the end of it, she did absorb their powers or their traits or whatever. So that's kind of like brought her to this point now. But I think another thing that might work in this film's favor is that it does feel like it's part of a continuity. Like I heard someone say that, like, they consider the trilogy, like the Dream trilogy, like Dream Master, or sorry, Dream Warriors, Dream Master, Dream Child, to be one connective thing, which makes sense because it sort of starts off, at least with Kristen, and then making its way to Alice. So it does feel like it's sort of like a passing of the baton, with the exclusion of 2, which is sort of like its own Gaiden, as it's called, like a side quill. And then and we won't really touch upon that because that'll be a podcast for another time. Freddy's Dead, which is sort of like reboots things all over again. But so in a way, this is almost like, I guess you could consider it like, if you're looking at the Halloweens, it's like the curse of Michael Myers, where just sort of like it ends, and there's more closure here than we get in that movie, but it's sort of like it's this lingering plot thread of just sort of, I guess, she gets to live her happily ever after with her kid and
her sober father.
It's almost like the Black Phone universe.
Oh God!
He redeemed himself.
Not to me. I will watch that sequel, and I will watch it through my side eye. But anyway, but for this movie, and also with her friend Yvonne, who I think I tend to remember her as much harsher than she actually is in the movie, just because she's of Alice's friend group, Yvonne definitely is the strongest resistance that she experiences. But I think she actually, even when she's resisting it, she's still like, calling in Dr. Moore on a Sunday to get the baby looked at because her friend who's, pregnant wants to make sure that the baby's okay. And even though she's like, I can't believe you're making me do this. She's doing it. She wants to make her friend calm down. And it takes her almost no screen time at all to come around finally. Like when she does the harshest pushback, when she's like pushing the evidence out of the way and get out of my way, I'm leaving this room, you both are crazy, and then she has a nightmare and she's like, you're not crazy. So
I mean, it feels like with Yvonne, I mean, like, the characters in this movie in general kind of suck, but with Yvonne, it's almost like she survives basically because of the script, because it's like, we're only going to kill off the characters who are more sympathetic or more like on Alice's side. So it's like it almost like saved her to be so resistant. It's like in the way that, like, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to make this like a Halloween cameo thing, but she's almost like the what's his name? Who Tommy's rival who trips him in the first movie.
Oh, Lonnie?
Lonnie. She's like the Lonnie Elam of just sort of like the kind of, not necessarily a frenemy, but just sort of like the pushback against this character. And maybe if there's like a return to this timeline in the future, she'll be their best friends and end up like going into the Freddy Krueger, or I guess the Nancy house, and let her kids wait in the car while she gets sliced up, because that's what they do in the
because that's what they did with Lonnie, right?
I don't know what I'm talking about anymore.
No, it's okay.
Just keep going.
No, you do make me think, because I remember there were a few drafts. I think we alluded to this a little bit when we talked Freddy versus Jason. There were a few drafts early on that incorporated Tommy. I always want to call him Tommy Jarvis, but that's Friday the 13th. What's Tommy in Halloween? What's Tommy's
Well,
last
it's
name?
Tommy Doyle in Halloween, but the
Tommy
Freddy
Doyle.
versus Jason did have Tommy Jarvis.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Tommy Jarvis. Okay, sorry.
'Cause
I'm
it would have
getting
been-
them all
it
mixed
would have
up.
been
It would have been
Jarvis,
Tommy
yeah.
Jarvis, not Tommy Doyle. See, we're straddling too many franchises.
All right.
I can't keep my Tommy
No,
straight.
no more Halloween. If I say any
We were ready.
Halloween,
Chucky.
I'll put a
Halloween.
I'll put a nickel in the franchise jar.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
No, it's what we do. I just, my brain is fried. So here we go.
I know.
Anyway,
Same.
it's really easy for the circuits to just start sizzling, you know? Anyway,
Yeah.
okay, so Tommy Jarvis was supposed to be Tommy Jarvis, I don't know which one, was supposed to be in Freddy vs. Jason. And so was Alice and Jacob. They were supposed to be in Freddy vs. Jason in really, really early drafts. I remember even reading one that was online.
Her kid?
Her kid, yeah, all grown up.
Okay, so I have a question about that. Because in the movie, like, he introduces himself as like Jake or Jacob, whatever, and it's so funny when she's talking to the friends about it or whoever. They're like, "Who's Jake?" And like, you named your kid, and she's like, "Yeah, I guess so." And
Nice.
but at
Very
the
nice.
end, when she's like having the picnic, I could have sworn she called the kid Dan.
Jacob Daniel. She called him by two
okay.
names. Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was just like Dan Jr.
No, I mean in a way but the middle name no, because I think Jacob, since she was given the the name was essentially bestowed upon him. Either he chose it or fate did.
What was
and so I
her
think she
brother's
just-
name? Why didn't the brother get any fanfare this time around?
Hello.
Was it Rick?
Baby. Rick. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
Rick.
I don't because he's not.
he's
Rick's
not
baby.
relevant. Well, I mean, yeah, but it's just there's no
I mean, he's
memorializing of him.
Well, there is a memorializing because, like, I wept this time. I always cry when she's okay. It starts off because, like, talking about how dire this movie is. I kind of live for it because it feels like a really, really good soap, and I'm watching, and also because I think Lisa Wilcox plays it like kind of perfectly. But the fact that like at some point in the movie, it's after Dan has passed away, and she's just kind of like surviving with it, trying to make sense out of like her situation. She knows she's pregnant, and she's in the kitchen, and she's just breaking down. Her father is like it revealed in the shot to have been standing there, kind of like watching her, like he walked in, saw, and didn't know how to deal with it, and then just kind of made a noise so she could hear him, so she could kind of collect herself, and she tries to, oh well, hey Dad, just sitting here doing dishes, whatever, and she says, when did you become such a good shopper? He says, as soon as I realized that my little girl is becoming a mom. And she just says, oh, it breaks my heart. She says, are you ashamed of me? And this man who was such an oppressive force that she used to fantasize about screaming him down, across the dinner table in the previous movie. Yeah. He says, no, I'm not. And in a way that you can believe. And she looks at him like her father's accepting her. And he says, I kind of hope it's a boy, actually. It'll be nice to hear a little boy playing in the house again. And he's talking about Rick because I love that they honor the loss that they experienced. Like it's not, because I had forgotten about him. With the first time that I saw this movie, and probably the first couple times afterwards that I had watched it, by the time we get to that point, I'm not thinking about like, and because her brother died. When he says that, I'm just like, somebody paid attention to something that mattered. I fucking love this movie. So that's me.
Well, it's not like she was like walking by his old room and saw like a pair of nunchucks and was just like,
no, but that's stupid.
Wait a minute, those aren't my nunchucks.
Those aren't my nunchucks.
What I thought was funny is that the dad was like, because like in 4, I guess it was Alice's job to prepare him dinner.
Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to do with this vegetation?
Yeah, right. What do I look like?
time...
A rabbit?
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
No, I just thought it was funny that she's making dinner for him, and she has the moment where her friend like juts out of the fridge, and then
Greta,
and then he's like, hey, how's it coming with that dinner? Like he's just no chill or anything. So he's still kind of like a schmuck in that way. Just like I'm not making the dinner. Like, I'll get my daughter to do it. But he amends himself in the very last scene because he's the one. I mean, assumedly, he's prepared the picnic and he's delivering it to them. I mean, for all I know, Alice put it all together and then he just sort of carried it from the car. But he was the one who was setting it all up on the little picnic blanket at the end.
Well, also, I do appreciate the fact that it's not kind of like, from the moment he's introduced, it's not just this idealized version of like, you know, their father-daughter relationship. The fact that he, everybody's hanging out with their parents at her graduation at the top of the movie, like after she has her nightmare and everything. Mm-hmm. And you see people interacting with their parents and the different dynamics, like Mark's embarrassed of his father and Dan's really, you can tell he's being kind of like backed into a future that he doesn't seem like he really wants, as far as like being like a football hero and this boy was my need for speed and all that bullshit. Mm-hmm. And then of course Greta's mother.
Oh my god,
who's my favorite bad parent in this movie.
Oh my god, possibly the franchise. Like, she puts Kristen's mom to shame. This woman is like, she is like if Russ Meyer and Dynasty got together.
Yes. Oh my god, if Russ Meyer directed a season of Dynasty, she would totally be a character on it, and she'd be like, "Oh, Greta dear, that's not the kind of thing a model puts in her body," and everything like that. I mean, even her highfalutin voice. Come on, you're from Springwood. Calm down. But
well, I guess Springwood is it's like the same way. Oh fuck. Here I go again. The same way that Haddonfield is
the East Coast. It's New York.
It's New York. It's Brooklyn.
Yeah, right. So what is it? Is Springwood like New England? Oh, Greta dear. But it's that level of hoity-toityness, though. And also, that's another thing. Like, I mean, you talk about like how much you don't like the people in this movie. I'm jumping all around, but I do just want to say, while it's in my head, I thought that I was gonna like, okay, which of her friend group am I not gonna like the first time I saw this movie? And I always go back to wondering if it was gonna be Greta. I don't know why, because she just seemed to be, I don't know, the girl, you know, like the pretty girl or whatever of the group, who's I don't know, who's a little less grounded than Alice. And I don't know, just like something about the way she like pulled. I said, "Oh, bring me a man," when even you look like a nun, because she's pulling her gown over her cap or whatever. Yeah. But I remember thinking like, "Oh no, I like her," when I was like 14, when her mother's just like, "Oh, Greta, picture opportunity," and
photo
she's just kind of like. Yeah, and she's just like, kind of like,
should I change my dress? Should I change my gown? There's a grass stain on it.
Yeah, right.
It might read.
Mommy dearest. No, but I love just like, oh man, now I have to go gnash my teeth with a paparazzi. And I had something about that. I was just kind of like, oh, she knows it's stupid. Good for her. She's not one of these like vapid, you know, kind of like self-absorbed people. She's just kind of like, I know I'm pretty, and I know my mom wants me to be a model, but fuck that shit.
Well, it's
like,
almost
I'd rather
like
be here with my friends.
It's just very one note in terms of like, I guess like the relationships with like the children and their parents, because it's like the same thing with like Dan's parents are just like forcing them into a thing that they don't want to do, and that's really like, yeah, like I agree, like, you know, there's these little touches that are peppered in there that make that character interesting, at least, but it just feels like there's not a lot of work that was put in here. And not to say that there was in the previous movie, because like there was a lot more characters, there was a lot more a lot more kills too. Like, this movie is very sparse with the kills, perhaps like one of the lowest body counts of this franchise, which is another point against it. Yeah, but there was at least something like in 4, even though they were all kind of like these archetypes, they were like the best versions of, like, they're just like, they're very memorable, almost like the way that another like 88 movie with Friday the 13th part 7, that whole house full of like this like motley crew of like people who would never be friends with each other, because like
the wealthy, the poor, the popular, like, the nerd, like
in for like Sheila and Debbie, like they would never be friends in like a clique situation in high school, but they sold it. Like there was more with those characters that actually like made that friendship very endearing. And I don't really get that here. Like it just like everything seems kind of forced. Like these people are like, yeah, we're all friends just because we were written to be that way.
Oh, see, I get the opposite. There's something about maybe the fact that it is a smaller crew and the fact that, again, it scratches that Saved by the Bell itch for me, where I'm just kind of like, okay, we've got like, like the pretty model type one. We've got kind of like, I get like a real kind of responsible overachiever vibe from Yvonne. She's got a job as a candy striper, or because she doesn't look like an orderly. I think that's a candy striper apron she's wearing.
Oh,
but
I thought she worked at the diner.
But she's a nurse.
I guess I just wasn't paying attention.
How is she like, I can't believe you got me to drag Dr. Moore in here on a Sunday for this, while her hands are like
sense.
rubbing the gel on Alice's stomach. But I'm late for my shift at the diner. Why am I here?
At the Peach
That would have been
Pit,
hilarious.
Yeah,
yeah, right. No, because Alice is still working at the diner.
Yeah.
And she
with some awful people. Who's that one? I mean, granted, she was 4 hours late, but like, God, like, maybe like have a little more concern. Just like, 4 hours you didn't show up. I thought
are you okay?
For like Alice, who's usually like very responsible. No, did that character have a name?
I don't remember. I just remember the fact that like Alice is just kind of like, no, in the dream he came. It's just like, in the dream. Okay, you're nuts. Like, I mean, just total bitch. That's her name. Bitch.
Don't
bitch
you
waitress.
know?
But...
Don't you know what town you live in? Like,
exactly.
Do you know the history of this place?
Apparently they don't.
I guess they've already started to condition the children to forget.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. They've got those Men in Black little, pen things, to erase their memories and whatnot. But you can't talk about it because it'll bring him. But I mean, like little details like that might have been interesting. We found out that like, so and so transferred from another school, so and so was out that year because they were studying abroad, and that's why they don't know. That might have been okay, but honestly I don't really think about it while I watch the movie. What was I talking about? Yvonne and the kids. Oh, but no, one of the things that I like about it is, I don't know, there's something about their interactions that plausible though they may be not on paper. I like that I see them hanging out like all, at the pool together. And I'm just kind of like, oh, I could see those people like hanging out on, in a corner, like just together. Like, well, there's a greater party going on, but we've already established that Dan prioritizes, like actual friendship over like, status or anything like that. So he's not just going to be hanging with the jocks or anything like that.
Is he the school valedictorian?
No, I wondered.
It seemed like he was like giving a speech and it was just like the tail end of it, and it was like so yeah, we've all graduated, so let's blow this pop stand.
Yeah,
like, that's his valedictorian speech?
No, because nobody was seated. Everybody was all. It looked like they had already graduated, and they wanted to allude to the fact that it's graduation, so they want to make it sound like there's somebody making a valedictorian speech, and then all of a sudden it cuts to him. I think he jumps off of one of the little folding chairs that they had and just leaps into the crowd, because everybody's standing around with their parents. Nobody stands at a graduation. They'd all be sitting down in rows, waiting to get their stuff.
Who knows what they do in spring? Like
those gauche Springwood teenagers standing through their graduations. No class, no mystique. But anyway, no. But I mean, like, just things that, again, like you talk about, like little things peppered through that kind of sell it for me. Like, I like the fact that for Greta, after Dan has passed away, there's a shot of her. She's not really sharing her grief with anyone. She's just kind of sitting in her little doll room and just looking at like a photo of him in like a yearbook and everything. And I mean, there's a photo in the yearbook, and there's a photo of all of them, I think, from the graduation that she's looking at. She's just crying, just grieving for the loss of her friend. And that's the last time she gets to do anything before her kill scene. But also, then later, after she's passed on, that's another thing I love about these movies, is that when we lose people, we don't lose that many in this movie, that's true. But when we do, there are people who grieve them. Because when Greta goes, Mark is the one who seems to be kind of like feeling it the most. And I don't know, just again, the fact that it reverberates with these characters, that they don't just kind of pick up and just keep moving. Granted, there are no funerals in this one, maybe we could have used one or two because we usually have.
Well, the
funeral kind
budget
of, like,
the budget
ground
went
us.
to everything else, so
It did. It really did. But I mean, it's also a short movie. Like, I wouldn't have minded a little bit. Oh, because one thing in terms of something that you mentioned that I will agree with in terms of just like, you know, the lack of kills. Another thing there's a lack of in this movie that I don't think I ever really felt until I sat there with pen and paper watching this last screening. Freddy. There is not a lot of Freddy Krueger in this movie. And
we always forget to talk about Freddy.
I think it's just such a given because, like, number one,
Yeah.
like, there's not a lot to talk about because Robert Englund always fucking shows up.
Yeah.
He always fucking brings it. He's always undeniably like that character at whatever stage we happen to find him. He's
Yeah.
developed more and more. I mean, to the point where when he is on screen in this, like, I love it again, like the minuscule. Maybe I'm just like grasping at not grasping at straws, but maybe just like sustaining myself with crumbs. But the crumbs are delicious for me with this movie because I love just seeing the interaction with him and his mother in the very beginning after he's reborn and everything with the little Freddy baby and everything. And I just love that all of a sudden the doors fly open and there is the new actress Beatrice.
That's my favorite scene in the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's just like
Yeah.
at that point, it's just like it's so high camp, and just like
Yeah.
the exchanges that are going on. And I love the way that Freddy hisses at her. Like he's just like.
And the
It's
fact that,
very
I
like
mean,
John Carpenter's vampires.
but it's also a return to like the last place that he was. Like we get the church
Yeah.
back where she fought him and showed him his
Yeah.
reflection,
Yeah.
which for some reason defeated him in that movie. So
And-
it's like where he gets reborn.
And then there's the
Interesting.
infamous line, which I feel like
Yes.
is the catchphrase for the.
Well, when because she tells him like, "I will not allow this abomination to continue," and he's like, "We'll see, bitch. We'll see." Oh, but you mean
there's
it's a
the-
boy?
It's a boy.
Yeah, that was in all of the promotional material for this movie. I
Yeah.
remember every commercial, and I was like, I was scared, but I wanted to see it.
Yeah.
but the fact that she's standing there, you know, like all holy and everything like that. And he just says, "We'll see, bitch. We'll see." And she's just like, "Look for me in the tower." It's like, "You'll never find her." It's all so gothic.
No,
and,
I love
opera
it.
level
Yeah.
melodrama. Yeah, and that's another thing that I love, that I feel like we got a lot of color and light in 4. And 5 kind of brought us back into the shadows without kind of sacrificing any color. I feel like there's still color throughout this movie, but I feel like from a visual standpoint, it gives us like the wonderful, it just brings us back to the Nancy house, the 1428 residence, you know, with all that looks just dilapidated and dreary, and takes us back to the church, and then also creates like some other scenes. I mean, I love the staircases. I always forget the name of the artist
Escher.
who used to paint those staircases that lead to nowhere, and it was also featured in the climax of Labyrinth. So obviously there's something that
a little
kind of
inspiration,
lends itself to
Well-
alternate realities, you know,
It like
staircases that lead nowhere.
Yeah, because what I noticed like this time was that scene at the beginning, and just like, this is fun. Am I like misremembering this movie? And then like Freddy just disappears, and that whole bit at the beginning, it just sort of like there are the moments like where we are seeing sort of like the Amanda of it all, and like even like Alice's. And I forget at which point it happens, but she's watching the birth of the nasty Freddy baby and all that. Like that stuff like is great. I love all that stuff. And you know, even the part at the end where Yvonne, you know, gets to, I guess, like, has she been locked in this tower for like that's just her corpse just kind of rotting in there? Okay, yeah. I mean, all logic aside, I was sort of, I guess, like I misremembered because I thought that like she put her hand on her shoulder or whatever, and there was going to be another Psycho reference.
I mean, there kind of is. I mean, she does turn, and there is a skull there. Thank
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
she,
Yeah.
evaporates
and then goes into the, and how awful for like the ghost of or the spirit of Amanda Kruger, because she like basically like absorbs this seed,
God.
and then
Yes.
it's like, and like, I'm gonna take all this pain and torment. Like, this woman had a horrible life
Yes.
and death, and
Yes.
and it just continues on in the afterlife too. They should have called this movie Seed of Freddy.
I mean, I wouldn't love it any less. I love Seed of Chucky. That's another.
Or
fifth
seed of
installment.
Amanda.
Ugh, yeah.
That's like a Saw.
Nobody would
sequel.
no one would see that movie. Amanda's not a ka-ching name, but unless we're talking Melrose Place. But
No, I was saying Saw. The
Saw.
like
Oh,
a-
right,
like-
or Saw. Right.
That'll be the
Oh,
next Saw
God.
movie.
Oh God, Seed of. Someone has to carry on the legacy. But anyway, no, that whole we'll just jump to the end, but we're jumping all over the place anyway.
Yeah.
That whole climactic point, I think more than ever in this screening, I felt myself kind of on this pendulous swing back and forth, going like, well, that doesn't work, but I really like that. But oh boy, does that not work. Like, from the moment that I think it's when Yvonne is moving up the matte painting as she's going toward the abandoned mental facility where the tower is, that, you know, Alice suddenly remembers or suddenly realizes. I wish there had been more clarification there. I agree with you. But then, then I kind of dig the fact also that Freddy, seed has already been planted when, like, Yvonne takes her jacuzzi with Freddy, and Alice saves her and pulls her out, and she says, "You're not crazy." But Freddy's about to chase after them once Alice pulls her out into like the halls of this facility, and he stops himself. It's one of the most memorable shots of Robert Englund in the whole movie for me, where he stops himself and he pulls back and he just kind of looks terrified at the structure. And you're wondering, like, oh, is it because Amanda's there? Is it because what's, I mean, is she the only one who has any power to kind of like, you know, defeat him this time round? And apparently there's something to that. But I also like the fact that a little bit later, he ends up chasing Alice, who is like invigorated and, you know, completely self-possessed, and going like, "And you're not gonna do what you did to Amanda," or whatever she says. And she runs, basically gets him to chase her into the room of 100 maniacs, and he gets torn to pieces by his fathers in a very grim, like X-rated
One of them
grim
actually
fairy tale
played
way.
by Robert Englund.
Yeah,
Nice
100%.
touch. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm all on board for that. And even once they're on the Escher staircases, I love that Dan comes out basically pulling a Donald Thompson, just gonna like, "Come to me, son." You know, he basically could have said like, "I've crossed over, my little prince," you know, but I just couldn't leave without saying goodbye.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, because we do that in this franchise. But then, you know, of course it's Freddy, because it's always Freddy.
Yeah. Unless it's
and
Amanda.
then-
Yeah.
Unless it's Amanda. And then, yeah, nothing quite makes sense. But usually, isn't that kind of like par of the course? Like,
Well, it's
for
the
these
dream
movies at this
logic.
point?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
that was another thing that I didn't mind so much, again, with everything that led up to that point, because finally I felt like there was an explanation for why things are manifesting themselves in our conscious reality, because it's no longer Alice dreaming, it's her baby dreaming. And I guess because she shares like a system with him, she can kind of like that boundary between sleep and awake is blurred, so she can experience things in both worlds simultaneously, which is why I think her father doesn't respond when Greta's like reaching for her out of the refrigerator, and her father's just sitting there. And I'm like, because as far as what he can see is probably her just standing there leaning against the counter, because she's
There's these shots where like
inside
the whatever room she's in just like gets ripped away, and suddenly it's like this, what I can only assume is like a birth canal or something.
Yes.
Like, is that what it's supposed to be? Or like a fallopian
yeah.
tune or something? Like,
Rachel Talalay, the one who ended up directing 6, wanted to escape the womb-like tunnels is what she called them, and said maybe you want to talk to some of the male directors about like why that was a repetitive theme. But I think it was another thing they also kind of borrowed from Poltergeist, because there was womb-like tunnels in that movie as well, where it's just kind of like this organic pink soft fleshy vortex that you're gonna fall down.
Did I ever tell you about the time that, because I used to like try to do yoga at one point.
Where's
like,
this going?
So it's going, yeah. So this one particular studio I went to, the instructor sounded exactly like Zelda Rubinstein, like just like had this voice, and she was like, it was Mother's Day weekend, so it was like it's the Mother's Day theme, so she like themed the whole thing around mothers. And she was just like describing, like, like as you're close your eye and just picture all this, but in like Zelda Rubinstein's voice. And it's just like, you're in the womb, you're in your mother's womb. And then there's a tunnel, and you're like, there's this whole fucking thing. And I'm just like trying not to laugh, because like I'm afraid that'll be seen as disrespectful. And
you're
that
just expecting. Yes, go on.
Yeah, no, I think that was the last time I ever went to a yoga class. And it not for like a lack of, or just like for that being too weird or anything. I think it's just like it's a commitment.
Right.
But I'm like, if there's ever a last yoga class to go to, like this would be it, because it was just like it was a little over the top.
Okay.
And especially
you were just
with
expecting
that voice.
her to go,
Yeah.
it lies to
Yeah.
her. It says things only
Stay
a
away from the
child
light.
can understand. Yes. Oh, welcome. Now hold on to yourselves. You're jamming my frequencies. Anyway. That's another role Jennifer Tilly should have played in the remake, but
the Poltergeist remake. Who
Yeah, the
played
Poltergeist it was Jane Addams, but really it was a married couple, because it was Jane Addams and like the guy. There was a man who
God.
we didn't need.
Was it the Conjuring, the Warrens before the? Well, I guess Conjuring would have come out first before the remake to that.
Maybe.
Conjuring is just taking over all the franchises and remakes,
It was like Conjuring if like the Warrens had experienced kind of like a messy divorce, but they still kind of had it for each other. That's what the vibe was, because it's like, well, these people are getting reunited and I don't give a shit. Anyway, that's a big tangent.
Yeah.
But
Anyway, yeah. So these birth canal things. That,
these birth canals
was very present in this movie.
Yeah, and actually, but they also kind of like, again, like in a weird way, like the character of Mark, who I realize just what a big fan I am of him, especially in his proximity to Alice. I think their scenes are kind of my favorites in this entire movie. But
is Mark the only other guy?
He's the guy with like the blonde strip of hair and the comic book kid. Yeah, the one who's all colorful and everything like that. Yeah. Excuse me. The actor Joe Seeley wanted to play him originally as like goth with like a trench coat, and he had black hair, I guess, in his own daily practice. And they were like, "No, we're going to give you a big old blonde thing. We're going to put you in colors and everything." He's like, "Oh, well, all right." But he, in terms of like, there's one like those are two examples of like things that I think work and don't work. Like for him, I feel like the first time he dreams, when Freddy almost gets him in that womb-like tunnel, is when Alice sees him in her waking life, but not because little Jacob's dreaming, and so is Mark. She sees like an animated him looking at a drawing of the house.
It's like the Aha music video.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And then so she like and it's the most like cut-cornered way of trying to get her into the dream, but I love that it works, that she just draws herself and writes Alice over it like a stick figure, and then all of a sudden she just kind of stands there.
If there's ever an Anna Faris moment, it's
oh my God, you're right. You're absolutely right, because that's hilarious.
How do I get into this dream?
Because if Anna Faris did that, it would be fucking hilarious.
And then she just closes her eyes and turns around and she's there. Yeah, no,
exactly.
God. Well, I mean, it's hilarious here, but it's totally a Cindy Campbell moment.
Yes.
Whenever Scary Movie 6 comes out, like we just need her back. They need to reference all these things. I want her to like be like, I don't smoke. And, like, just draw a stick figure. Cindy.
The Wayans are big followers of the pod, so I'm sure all of this they're jotting it down. But anyway,
the Wayans,
Jennifer Tilly will be in it, and
yeah.
she'll play everything.
Yeah.
But anyway, so but when he goes in and she goes after him, I love that it works, and I love that like she gets to like pull him out of the womb essentially, but I also love again, okay. The fact that like we've planted the seed that like when we saw the crushed beer bottle like over at the pool and he's like wincing because of the blood and they telegraph it to us just like how can you like draw like you know such like the most graphic things in these comic books and yet the sight of actual blood like you know makes you this wuss or whatever and he's like sitting there like you know again giving it side eye and everything. So when he sees his own blood after he gets pulled out of the womb he just kind of goes oh shit and just passes out through the floor and probably wakes up. But again, it's kind of the antithesis of what was achieved in Dream Master with Debbie, with her eating her health food and then she finds a roach on, it looked like an apricot. I think it was like a dried apricot or something. She's like, ew, gross. And she drops it and steps on it and it's all gross because you see it mix, the apricot mix with the roach. And it's really, you know, unseemly apricot. And unsavory, but yeah.
Not apricot.
Whatever, apricot. I don't know how to say words, but yeah. Is that a Canada-U.S. thing?
I don't know, but mini tangent. One time, the restaurant I worked at, there was a dish that had apricots in it, and like me just being like the cavalier server, I was like, there were like some ingredients that I would know. There was others that I just like didn't, so I would just fake it. And one time this table was just like, what is this, like what is this fruit or whatever in here, and I had no fucking idea. So I'm just like, hold on, I'm gonna go find out from the kitchen, because it's like I hate when they like fucking put me on the spot and make it obvious that I don't fucking know what I'm doing. So I go to the kitchen and then of course I have to like make myself look stupid to like the chef, and it's just like, how do you not know that it's like an apricot? I'm like, yeah. So I go back to the table and I'm like, that's an apricot. And then like this husband or wife or like couple or whatever, they're just like, see, I told you. And then I'm like, whoa, what's going on? They're like, well, we just wanted to see how you pronounce it. If we had this like argument, it's just like, is it apricot or apricot? And I was just like, really? Like you just made me go all the way back to the kitchen to make myself look like an asshole? And I actually said this to them.
Oh my God, Zach.
I was annoyed. I'm just like, I got like a lot of tables. You know? But they felt bad about it. So I was like milking it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did they tip you well after that?
I don't remember. Probably.
If you don't, then probably not. But anyway. Yeah. So she's eating her health food and she steps on it, and then you kind of think like, okay, so her nightmare's gonna be like, you know, roaches all over her probably, and then she turns into one, and it completely like it epitomizes like how you plant something and pay it off, and even like but goes even further. Like it satisfied the thing that it planted, but it didn't. But it went beyond like what we were expecting, and we're just kind of like, wow, was not expecting that. It made one of the most memorable kills in the entire franchise. Mm-hmm. In this case, we get the blood thing. I want to see gore surrounding Mark, and I want to see him wincing and fainting, but not maybe like there's a thing where it's like you can't go unconscious because he's taken away your ability to faint. I don't know, but no, they decided instead. Well, he's a comic book guy, and I like the director Stephen Hopkins. He's a comic book fan as well, so I wanted to have a comic book kill, but initially. Even that was supposed to be originally something that I think sounds so much more interesting. It wasn't even for Mark's character. They had, I guess, an entirely different draft where there was a woman who was an art collector. And she had these like paintings that were depictions of violence and, you know, things like that. And the paintings that she occupied her entire house with were supposed to come to life in her nightmare and attack her. And I'm like, oh, that would have been amazing. A lot more amazing than you lip dick, but
well, that whole sequence, like it feels like a retread of Dream Warriors with the kid in the wheelchair who's sort of like I'm a wizard or whatever.
Right.
Mark turns into this what's the character's name?
He's called the Phantom Prowler.
The Phantom Prowler, which is not a great comic book. The Phantom Prowler. It's sort of like
they could come up with.
It sounds a little rapey.
It sounds like an anti-hero at best.
Yeah.
But
Phantom Prowler. And like, kids, you better get inside and lock your doors tonight. The Phantom Prowler's on the loose.
If you don't behave yourself, we're going to put you out on the street for the Phantom Prowler to come abduct you.
He's got like, and it's sort of like, it's almost like a Zorro thing, if I'm remembering correctly.
It looked more like a World War II like fighter pilot or something.
Well, was it like because there's a mask, but it wasn't like an over the head.
I thought it was like goggles. I thought it was like goggles and a
See,
kind
this
of
is
like
this
leather
is
helmet.
Look.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention. I was never paying attention. All I know is that it's just like that Super Freddy comes out and he's on the skateboard and all that shit, and the whole place I guess like collapses on itself, and that was like the authorities just being like, yeah, this place was a death trap.
Yeah. Also, again, like, but even the kill itself, like, I think it's my least favorite kill of the movie, probably. But also just the fact that it's still there's little pendulous swings while it goes on, because it's got Freddy on a skateboard, and I never really liked that, but I do think it's kind of cool seeing him in black and white makeup and costume, so there's that. And I like the fact that, like, again, it's not devoid of blood, because there is that close-up shot of Mark where, like, blood's spilling on his hair. And again, you'd think his reaction would be like, ah, but he doesn't flip out. But the blood belongs to Greta, who's all dolled up, like up in above his head, and she's like, Mark, help me, please. And he's just,
There's something about her, like the makeup effect with like her like cheeks all expanded with the food. Like that whole sequence is so disturbing and gross to me. Like it works. Like that's another boon to this movie. Is her kill scene.
And exactly, and even that one got trimmed down, because I know that I can't remember if they shot it or not, but I know in storyboards that I've seen, he's supposed to be feeding her, right? And her face is supposed to be like, getting more and more bloated. It gets to the point where the food is all gone. He's fed her everything on the table. Everyone's laughing, and he wants to keep feeding her. So that's where the wound that bleeds on Mark in this nightmare comes from. He starts spooning her stomach, her own insides out, and feeding them to her, and we didn't get any of that. So she's just kind of bleeding from the stomach because she needs to.
It's kind of, I mean, and then it's all kind of like ruined for me with that like goofy like when she's it's almost like she's a marionette. Like choking. But like if you're choking, like you're gonna like, I mean, I don't know, I've never been around someone who's like been choking on food. I've never like choked on food, but like in the movies typically you're like, grasping at your throat or whatever, but she's like,
it's because
she's like doing this like dance thing.
Well, because first she's hanging over Freddy because he's burping her, and then also because like she's in the similar position when she's reaching out of the fridge for Alice.
Okay, well I guess that it's just with whatever cuts were made, it didn't translate the best it could.
No,
but this dinner party, this bougie ass dinner party, I thought it was funny that it's like I guess going back to the mom at this point. Her whole thing is like, don't put that in your body, like basically just like don't eat, but you do eat when there's company, because it's impolite not to eat, and it's just like, I'm trying to understand this woman's logic. She's like saying like, just binge and purge.
100%. I don't think she'd have a problem at all if she thought that Greta was doing that. And also but I also love just Greta's demeanor at it, the fact that she is not at all showing up for this party. She is bored out of her mind. She's side-eye is a big thing with this movie, apparently, because she's side-eyeing the people. There's one guy who's at the table who's just kind of like talking about what a beautiful body she's got. She's just giving him exactly the look I want her to give him. Like, fuck you. Stop talking about my body. I'm a teenager, you piece of shit. But
and she's like, you know, talking about her dead friend. And the thing is, it's just like this woman is so repulsive that I can't tell if this is like actually the dinner party or this is part of Greta's nightmare at this point, when she's just like, well, it wasn't like they were dating or anything, it's just a friend.
I think that was real. I think that was she was just saying like, not somebody special. I mean, you have to put a lot more syllables in it and you really over enunciate everything you say, nothing but the best for my Greta.
No blinking. Wide smile. Like it's totally like Russ Meyer meets Dynasty.
Yeah, Fever Dream.
What else has that actress done?
I don't know. I didn't look her up.
Oh, sorry. Your favorite parent, your favorite bad parent of
my favorite bad parent in the movie, and I don't know her name.
Of the movie, in the movie or the franchise?
Oh, in the franchise, I might have to give it to Brooke Bundy because she makes me laugh in 4 with the andale. And also because like when I finally saw the interview with her, they didn't find the mother for 5 for the Elm Street legacy. I wish they had. But when they talked to Brooke Bundy, like she had a whole backstory that she built up for that character, and I remember when she said it, I was like, oh, I totally get that. I remember feeling it without ever articulating it, because you're not the kind of character who I would ever give a lot of thought to, but I see you doing the work, so she might be my favorite bad parent. Or, of course, Ronnie Blakely. I mean, she gets the most screen time out of any of them, and she makes a meal out of every fucking scene she's in. But basically, I think I prefer the bad moms to the bad dads, because
there's more nuance. For sure.
Yeah, and there's more fun to be had. Your women behaving badly thing.
Yeah, and this is actually, so Dan's parents, and it's funny because you mentioned Melrose Place earlier, and this feels like a scene right out of the subplot where Joe is pregnant and Reed's parents are trying to take custody of the baby. And just so this isn't completely irrelevant to anyone listening, John Saxon, who plays John Saxon in the movies, Nancy's dad, Donald Thompson, is Joe's Daphne Zuniga's lawyer in like a 3-episode arc on Melrose Place, where her boyfriend, her ex-con boyfriend who she murdered, his parents are trying to take custody of her baby. And that's what that scene was giving me in the movie, because they're just like, you can't raise this child on your own.
Well, also because it also gave me, I think for the first time I was watching it, just because I know I'm like, I hate them, but I know that I don't know, I was watching and I remembered like thinking like, I think the mother like comes down a little bit more harshly than the father does, which is true. I know, like in reassessing it, running a fine-tooth comb through it, he seems to be the one who's like, you know what, I think this was a mistake. Maybe we just need to like get out of here. And the mother's the one who doubles down and even threatens with the courts.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just like the fathers are like always like very simplified in these situations. Like his father at the beginning was all like, but sports, and you gotta do the sports. And the mom seemed like really like she was, like, oh hey Alice, like, like there didn't seem to be any issue. But then there was I guess this doesn't count really, but I mean, maybe there's some manifestation of it when Dan is having his nightmare and the mom gets on the radio and she's talking shit about Alice, and just like, Mom, like what's going on? So it's sort of a precursor to this woman coming in, and she's obviously has like a lot more designs on this baby than like, what we could have imagined, or at least what the father had. There might have even been like an interesting storyline here where it was like Freddy versus Dan's mom vying for this child.
Who deserves the baby more?
who is going to get the baby? Well, I mean, maybe that's I guess Freddy only goes after the kids or the teenagers, but it would have been interesting if he, like, I gotta get this bitch out of the way too, and I
mean, who knows? I mean, if he, I don't know, but I mean, but in terms of like that whole exchange, like again, it brings up the whole soap opera thing that I absolutely adore about this movie, because it also feels like legitimately like I know whose side I'm on, and I know who I'm pissed at, and I even know the turning point, because I even like the way the parents show up in the house, because I remember the first time I saw it, and I always re-experience it this way. The mother even says like, we want to help. And it's like, it's, if you're offering help, like, okay, the next best sentence would have been, anything that you need, you can come to us. And even if you need, you know, like a break or something like that, or a weekend or something, you know, like we can, you know, we can watch this. It's our grandchild too, and we want to watch over it. If you need any help financially, we got your back, because it's the one thing left of our son, but it turns into a threat. And I understand, again, like Dr. Moore, after he came in on a Sunday and looked at her baby, completely violated, is it the Hippocratic Oath, or just like his doctor-patient privilege, I think, when he saw her raving like a lunatic on his table and decided to call Dan's parents and like just to report to them, just to let them know, by the way, the little girl who's carrying your son's child is going nuts. Yeah. So I feel like if he hadn't done that, maybe we wouldn't have seen that side of them, at least not this early.
I mean, good for him for at least like conjuring that out of him, because I'm sure that was something that was inherent in them and it would have come out eventually. He just expedited the process. But, you know, like that's another scene. Because, I mean, this franchise is just full of, like, you know, is this a nightmare? Is this real life happening? Because it's just, like, that feels, like, borderline unrealistic. Like, there's shit that's going on. But it brings up, an interesting thing. It's just, like, there's a lot of, like, real-life drama that Alice is going through as well. And it almost makes you wonder, like, what would a sequel be that, like, you know, like a Freddy-less sequel, where it's just sort of, like, you know, everything is fine. You know, they defeat the monster at the end of 5, and then the next movie is sort of like, you know, now we're just battling for custody of this child. What happens in these characters' lives beyond the evil demonic presence? But
I'd probably be the only one who wants to see that movie. I don't think there are a lot of people who want to see that. Yeah,
but they were interesting, because like they even said like, we want to raise this child as though it's our own. Like they would have lied to it and said that they were the parents.
Of course,
like that's
what Elm Street parents do. They lie. But also the fact that they say, because there was a lot of things, a lot of little things that the mother said along the way, just kind of like, after all, there are more important things than your feelings. And it's like, oh, she's the mother, bitch. Her feelings are, and the baby ain't been born yet, so her feelings are kind of the most important ones. I mean, turn a mirror. If we're gonna turn mirror on evil, so it will unmake itself. I mean, like there are more important things than your feelings, lady. Come on.
She's like hormonal. Like there's like her feelings are all that fucking matter in this pregnancy.
But then the final moment when she's just like, well, the courts may not agree with you. I love the fact that we get in that moment Dennis Johnson is the dad, Alice's dad, standing up and defending his daughter and not allowing her, them to come into his house and talk to his daughter that way, threaten her and everything like that. And I love the fact that like by this point Mark has completely bought into the situation. He's got her back. I even love the way he's milling about in the background, just kind of like listening to what's going on. And that's a key thing with this character. I love the way that he like
he's a prowler. Yeah.
No,
he's a phantom. He just prowls and lurks.
The fact he's in his head, he's probably fully decked out as the Phantom Prowler in all those scenes. But no, I like the fact that he's willing to listen, he's willing to learn, and he's willing to support Alice through all of that. So like, I love that he's the one who basically like breaks ground with the research that Alice hasn't quite gained access to yet. Like she's got other problems to deal with the death of her boyfriend and baby daddy, and with this pregnancy, and then also like having previous experience, but trying to figure out how did he find his way in this time. So he goes off and decides to do like the legwork. I really love just the two of them sitting with each other, just being pragmatic about like, how are we going to deal with this? What are the origins? Let me grab this book. I'm glad he didn't grab a Bible. I'm glad he grabbed Christian mythology and said like, her soul is doomed to wander the earth, you know, like until, because that was another thing too. Like that's a big gray area. The continuity is strong. I think I agree with you with the last two movies in this one. But one thing that I'm like, well, then how did she mill about? Like, she seemed to have no problem wandering around graveyards and, you know, visiting Neil in Dream Warriors.
Yeah.
So, like, what is this prison that she's in? The prison was essentially a closed door, you know?
And
that needed to be broken through.
Yeah, why wasn't she trying to recruit Neil to get her out? Neil not coming back after 3, it was like a huge, we talked about this, like a huge missed opportunity for this franchise.
Yeah, because again, just like more people on your side who already know what's going on. Like they did it perfectly with the character who mattered most, which was Nancy.
Is that actor still around?
I think so.
I mean, you know, we always talk about, you know, what future does this franchise really have at this point? Because Robert has basically said like he's done, and you know, there's always a price, I'm sure, but you know, you'd want him to want to do it too. Like it's just not, it's not just like here's money, like yeah, sure, I'll like, not that I think that he would ever phone it in, but you know, it's one thing to take the role, but it's another to like actually be invested in it and want to do it. And you know, we know Heather would do it in a heartbeat. So yeah, I'd love to see like a return of like, you know, her character. I mean, like they can bring her back from the dead. I mean, this is in this franchise, they can bring anyone back from the dead.
Or she could be the Dream Warrior, like the angelic Dream Warrior, like mentor, like in the Dream Realm, and Alice can take care of the reality.
Yeah,
you know?
and bring
like,
back
I would love to see
Neil.
Alex and a grown-up Jacob. I would love to see that too. Yeah.
I mean,
well,
as long as it's not like Alice doing like here we go again, the Laurie Strode of like just racking a shotgun. Like I've waited 40 years for this. Was it been 40 years now? I guess almost
I'll take
40.
my payment.
Yeah. I'll take me shillings now.
People aren't going to get that.
No.
After we finished recording one night, we just couldn't stop.
The American Werewolf.
Was it American Werewolf? Yeah. Oh, right, because we were doing English accents for some reason, and we just
We're
did.
podcasters.
Yes, investigative journalists.
We're investigative journalists.
Kept going.
It's
every
like
character in the Halloween saga.
No, but I think the idea was like, what if like everyone in Halloween 2018 was English?
Yes.
Or just like, you know, even like giving some of them like a Cockney accent.
Yes.
And it was just like, what would like Laurie Strode
Blimey, Frank! But we even got to like Halloween Kills instead of Evil Dies Tonight. I think I said something like treachery expires this evening or something like that.
Oh. See, sometimes we just have to like, we have to keep the meter running after we're officially done, because that's where some of our, I mean, most people probably like roll their eyes and just be like, oh god, but we have too much fun sometimes.
Some people like it though. Some people stick around, but so like Mark and Alice, I guess I spelled it out like exactly how much I like them and how much I care about, like, you know, I don't know, the things that matter to them and the fact that they seem to have the bond that I want to follow the most. And unfortunately, you know, he's not long for this world either. So I think the biggest thing for me though is overall, like you mentioned, like production design, the look of the film, and I wrote down the names because it stood out that much to me. C.J. Strawn was the production designer. John Jockenstein was the set decorator. There were details all up and down those sets that I just like. You get your.
What else did they do?
I didn't know. Look it up. I don't know. People look it up on IMDb. Look for yourselves. We can't do everything for you. But
I'm asking you to do it. Don't give me the old look it up.
Timothy Gray as the art director. Well, I was doing it while I was waiting for you. Here, let me look it up. And art direction by Timothy Gray.
Yeah.
Also did, and of course, Now my phone's stalling. Here, Timothy Gray did... Oh, also did New Nightmare. Also did Freddy's Dead. Also did... Oh, well, we're getting into... He did the OG Poison Ivy, it looks like, with Drew Barrymore.
Okay.
Yeah. Those are the biggest, most high-profile things that he did. And then...
I mean, there's a
CJ
lot
Strawn.
of names on this. Like I'm just looking at art department. 77 credits for this movie.
CJ Strawn has been with them since Dream Warriors for sure. So I mean, I think that's another reason why these 3, 4, and 5 all feel like so kind of like cohesively connected with each other, is because they largely were the same kind of like brainchilds visually. Even though there was a different director at the helm for each one of them, like largely the people who were constructing these things and conceiving them and really kind of like executing the decisions that the director had made were
Who
the same
directed
people.
this one?
This one was Stephen Hopkins. He was a kid. I don't even remember if he directed anything prior to this. He was a
Has he done anything since?
huge... nothing that I've ever seen. I think I researched him at one point to see if there was something worth seeing. Like he produced the Lost in Space movie from the 90s. Looks like, did he direct Predator 2? Yeah, he directed Predator 2. Still haven't seen that one. Yeah.
I mean, it's
not a lot of identifiable things.
Yeah.
No, I mean it looks like he's been working consistently, but just
no recent
profile.
director.
Not that I could
credits,
find.
yeah.
No.
Okay.
But
or at least like anything high profile. It looks like there's a Fugitive TV show from 5 years ago. 24 Legacy, directed 3 episodes. So like Shameless. So a lot of television.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so because 4 was Rennie Harlan, who most recently did The Strangers Chapter 1. I think that he's, because they did all 3 chapters supposedly back to back, so I think that he's still attached for whatever the Chapter 2 is whenever that comes out.
He also did Exorcist the Beginning, the remake of Exorcist
that's
Dominion.
that's like
back in the day.
20 years ago now. But,
No, I know, but I'm just like notable things in other franchises that he's done that I don't like as much as Master.
Chuck Russell of Dream Warriors, he's directed, it's supposedly coming out this year, the remake of Witchboard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm interested to see that, because Witchboard, not a good movie. I mean, there's qualities to it that I like, but that's definitely a movie that like could use a remake, if you know what I mean.
The way we describe the movies that should be remade are the ones that like have some crucial flaws that need to be extricated. Yeah. Also, just in terms of like, from the get-go, like the way the movie's introduced to the way that it closes out and everything like that, I just feel like there's an attention to mood, to nuance, and to even just like the immersive quality of the nightmares. Like I love the fact that like the first time Alice goes into the aforementioned shower in the nightmare, like you're just waiting for something bad to happen. And then it does inevitably with like the horrible kind of like, apricot colored mess.
Was that
in the shower?
Okay, so it's apricot when it's not the fruit, when it's just like
exactly
the color. But if it's the fruit, it's apricot. Okay, gotcha.
When it's pus, it's apricot. Yes.
Was that Lisa Wilcox, or is that a body double?
No, there is actually an issue that she took initially with it because she didn't want to do nudity, and she had in her contract she would do no nudity, and that she had clearance if they hired somebody else to make her nude. And they hired. She actually, if you look, there's 2 nude doubles for her body doubles, as it were, in the credits at the end. And one of them, when they're floating, because also it's never explicit. It's never like, look at them titties. It's always like through like a Coke bottle, like. But she, because there's a shower door, but it was someone else, and she went to a screening of it. And she saw the girl floating in the shower, and right there in the opening, and she was just kind of like, "I see a triangle," and she kind of flipped out a little bit, not like angry, but just kind of like, we didn't discuss, I didn't clear. People are going to think that's me. They're going to expect me to do, as women, we've discussed this many times, especially with the Halloween Resurrection. I think was when we really pinpointed it. The toll that can take on an actress. Yeah.
with Katie Sackhoff.
Sackhoff. Yeah.
Oh
And,
my god, her reaction video on YouTube to
I love
to
her
the
so
movie.
much.
Oh, it's so funny.
But so she was freaking out, and they apologized, and they sent her. All amends were made because they sent her like apparently like a great big old, I don't remember, fruit basket or muffin basket, like something really like expensive, and she was like,
Oh my god,
guys,
a muffin
like,
basket will fix everything.
But it meant the world to her. She was like, oh, they felt really bad. Okay. So, and also because it wasn't explicit and because, it wasn't like something, it was just, kind of like something that happens in the beginning. And then later when she falls through the floor basically, and just kind of like falls through space and lands in the halls of the facility. And she's just wandering through naked, like, unless it's a close up, it's not her. And, I don't know, something about like being naked and wet in a dirty, grimy asylum just immediately feels like nightmare to me, and also kind of like tickles that gothic itch that this movie scratches. Mm-hmm. And so I mean, I don't know, that right off the bat, like the movie has me sensorially just kind of like surrendering to it, and then in the end, like it keeps me in Alice's experience because I can feel whether it's emotional pain, physical pain, psychological, whatever it is, I am there with her because when she. Again, I don't agree necessarily. If I saw it in a script, I'd be like, guys, really? The fact that she realizes Freddy's inside her. So that's how he has to be defeated. She has to get him out because he knows you so well, as Jacob tells her. So she just kind of turns into Freddy and starts screaming. But I don't like the idea of it. But then in practice, I love the practical effect of her pulling Freddy out of her skull. And you just get all of these shots that they were allowed to keep in of like this pull between their faces until like his body and hers are like merged but separate. I don't know, everything about it. Have you
like kept up with Lisa Wilcox's career?
No, because it just hasn't come down the pike for me. But
well, she did this reality show recently 2 years ago called MILF Manor.
Oh my god!
So I guess like it's like women go on with their sons.
Oh, that's right.
And it's
It looked terrible. Okay.
I mean, it's got like a 3.8 out of 10 on IMDb.
Yeah, it was terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's I guess like sort of the idea is like they go there and I think that like they
sons hook up with older women
like
and mothers hook up with other women's sons. Yeah, and then there's drama.
Yeah. Drama or trauma?
Drama. Well, probably both,
generational trauma.
Generational trauma. But okay, if you do what you got to in this business.
Absolutely.
But I think
good for her for still doing stuff.
Yeah, bring her back though. Bring Alice back. Somebody. Yeah. Come on, Lisa deserves it. We deserve.
Put her in scary movie 6. Yeah.
She can just be. Anna Faris will start smoking. She'll go like, I don't smoke. And Lisa will be like, hey, that's my line.
Maybe, or she can play Cindy's mom.
Cindy's mom! Yeah. Isn't Cindy's mom dead?
Well, I guess if the template for Cindy was sort of like Sidney Prescott, then maybe. I don't remember. I know that the mom was gone, but I mean, like, they could do they could do a Scream 3 style. I was so pretty.
I mean, I wouldn't be upset if it happened, but I also I think my favorite final practical effect with everything is just the screaming umbilical heads when the souls of the friends who have expired are all like reaching they're like pulling Freddy in midair toward Amanda before she absorbs him and before like Jacob goes back where he belongs and carries her away. And in the face of it, like there's a lot of, again, the imagery and what they did with what they had, I find impressive, but at the same time, they pull back to a shot that shows they're basically on a black soundstage, with like some lights and some theatrical lighting. I love a resourceful crew, but it does look a little like old Batman, Adam West, season 3, like the Batgirl season when they stopped building sets behind them, and they started just putting a door frame and like a free floating window because we can't afford to build a whole set, so we'll just kind of imply there's a room. It does. I think it looks better on Batman than it does in this because it just looks kind of like a Bear soundstage to me with like some really expertly put together touches. But would I select that after we just saw those beautiful Escher staircases? No. Like, come on.
No.
Yeah, we did a Climax.
All right. Well, with all that said, I think that this is a great time to mosey on over to the cherry picker.
It's not like we killed people. On purpose.
Righty-o. We need a cherry on top. Cherry on top.
Isn't it ironic? It just made me think, actually. I think this is the first movie where Robert Englund gets over the title billing. It said, like, Robert Englund in A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dream Child. And yet, oh my God, the screen time.
Yeah.
Have we made him a cherry on top yet?
I think that was like one was Nancy, two
of course
was it Jesse in two, or was it the not Meryl Streep?
It might that was her name was Lisa, the character, right?
Yeah.
So
Lisa Weber.
Lisa.
And then three was it Nancy again, and then four
I think it was Nancy again.
Debbie. So we haven't given it to England. I mean, like that scene, like my favorite scene in the movie with him. Like I guess it's warranted, but this was almost like an argument that we had last time with Final Destination 2, where it's just like, can we give it to Tony Todd? He's in one scene. Honestly, this is your franchise, so I'm gonna let you take it away. And I know that another character that I probably would want to give it to, you're probably gonna want to give it to the cherry picker to. So, you know.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, who? Oh, wait, the mom?
Greta's mom.
I mean, well, also, then at least let there be like a nomination made for Lisa Wilcox's Alice, because like, my God, was she turning it out in this movie. Like, she was working hard, and I thought she satisfied, she checked every box, she did everything that she needed to do with this movie, and it's a shame that, you know, put her in something other than MILF Manor, guys. Come on, she deserves more. Good for her for working, make that money, but girl,
make that MILF money.
You got talent, you got star quality. So I just want to put that on the table.
So is she the cherry on top?
I think so, because we didn't make her last, and this is the last chance to make her one. Yeah. We have other opportunities for Robert Englund. So yeah.
Chip cheerio, cheerio.
Cheerio, oh God.
Right.
Okay, read.
Right. So last time we asked you who deserves to die the most in Final Destination 2. I nominated Evan Lewis. You nominated Man with Hooks across Patreon, Instagram, and YouTube. The final vote was 229 for Evan Lewis versus 502 for Man with Hooks.
Oh my God. Oh, I did it again.
Oh. Gosh, yeah. This poor man with hooks, who is just a hook salesman. I don't know what his story is.
Who knows? There were prosthetic stuff in there. Like, it wasn't one a hand. I think he had like prosthetic limbs in there. They weren't just hooks.
Yeah. All right. Denise says Evan is a douchebag and deserves everything that happens to him. If he wasn't so greedy, he would have survived. I mean, I think we established that he would have died anyway, but like, death did not need to work for that one. Like, he had it, you know, he had it covered himself. Thomas Baker, Man with Hooks, definitely. Space Monkey Pants. Poor Man with Hooks was just standing there with his hooks, not expecting anyone to freak out and get stuck to them and run away instead of calmly detaching herself first. The real villain here is the cop who shouted, "A man with hooks is going to kill you," despite knowing full well that's not necessarily how it works. But since he's not an option, I'll vote for Evan, who leaves their spaghetti on a footpath. Honestly.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a bumper sticker. Go on.
Amethyst Frost says, Evan's such an idiot and made so many bad choices that even if he weren't on death's list, he probably would have accidentally offed himself regardless. But I'd have a lot more sympathy for the man with hooks if he weren't sniffing up Nora on the elevator, and so blatantly too, so he can go.
That's what I'm saying.
Adrian Phillips, man with hooks. If your interests are overly perverse, choose one. Huff a grieving mother's hair or keep to yourself with your prosthetics. That he already had. His unscrupulous behavior killed a grieving mother. She had to die in an elevator because of a creep who smells like copper and Old Spice. And Eugene, if that doesn't strip a woman of her agency, I don't know what does. P.S. Love everything you guys do. Keep it up.
Aww,
Thanks, Adrian. Tyrone at Bradley. Did I fuck that up? Maybe. 100% the guy with the hooks. Didn't he like sniff her hair or something? Just for that, he should have been out of there. Thank you for all that you guys do. A light in these times. Oh my God, everyone's so sweet. Thank you, Tyrone.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Jazzy Boo. Evan was just dumb. Everything he did only made it worse. It's like if he just used a trash can.
He is a trash can.
Vicky screams. Hook guy for sure. He sniffed a grieving woman's hair in a confined space, as opposed to an open space. If he,
or if she weren't grieving, if she had just been a woman,
just a happy-go-lucky woman in a field.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Sniff
right.
away.
Then you can sniff her hair all you want.
Sorry, I don't know why I'm picking on Vicky screams here. Evan is just a young guy who suddenly got money, so he is behaving how a young guy in that situation would. Kind of douchey and irresponsible, but not sniffing a stranger's hair. I can't believe neither of you nominated Rory for shoving his shitty shoe under a stranger's nose. No one knows how to behave in lifts in this film. Lifts.
I don't even remember who Rory is.
Rory is the guy who took his shoe off in the elevator and stuck it under that guy's nose. Long hair, the guy who's like
the guy
sniffing
who
coke
wanted her to clean up his apartment so his mom wouldn't be brokenhearted. That guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember the shoe, but okay, go
on. But Vicky, are you from England? I just saw lifts. She mentioned lifts.
Yeah.
Lifts.
It's
No one knows.
UK.
No one knows how to behave in lifts in this film.
You just stand with your eyes toward the door and wait your turn.
Yeah.
That's the decorum.
Yeah.
Go on.
Sean Prinsek. I don't know who either of these characters are, but I do know that a guy with hooks is never good, so I vote for man with hooks. I think I'll call him Hooky. Also, this is the only Final Destination film that I would revisit. This is not a franchise that I like. However, that freeway scene is still the peak of the franchise. Never look at trucks on the road the same way again.
So many people favor this film. It boggles my mind, but good for you.
Michael Diamond. Evan was a douche. But I have to go with the hook guy for that creepy hair sniff. By the way, Jethro was a character on the show The Beverly Hillbillies and is used as an insulting description of Southerners in the U.S., like calling an entitled and controlling woman a Karen. I was cracking up watching it confuse Zach so much.
I guess I didn't articulate that the way I could have effectively. It's an insult to a Southern person.
Southerner.
Yeah. Southerner.
I love
Don't
that.
call them Jethro. That's an insult. You're just saying you pig to milk or whatever. Yeah. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say Parker Posey. I've been watching the new season of White Lotus, where she's got her Southern accent.
If she calls someone Jethro, you know she's insulting.
If she's like calls like one of her children that,
Jethro, Beverly Hillbillies. He was dumb, but sweet. He was sweet.
Silent Saturn. Evan had looks and money. Would be a bit much to expect him to have brains too. Hookman was a creep, so he gets my vote. Though personally, I would have given it to Weirdo, Rory, or Tim for running into that flock of pigeons like a moron.
Oh,
Weirdo Rory or Tim
Yeah.
for running
Or
into that
Tim
flock
for
of
running
pigeons.
into
Yeah,
the
Tim's not a
pigeons,
weirdo.
yes.
I mean, he's kind of, but like
Yeah.
Tim for running into that flock of
He just should have been cast younger. That's all.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I guess they felt it would be too grim to like have a young child. I mean, they did it in fucking Halloween 3 and 2018 with that kid with the shotgun in the car.
Oh, and the gravelly voice.
Yeah. That kid who was already smoking like 2 packs a day. But I just want to dance, Dad. I like hunting, but I just want.
You sound like Patty and Selma, like Marge's sisters from The Simpsons. I just want to dance.
Marge, we just want to dance.
This is what we do when we cut, guys.
When we just we do a lot of voices impersonations. So there's like almost like a lot of it is like what would like Jennifer Tilly. I think that's where we got the idea of like or Jennifer Coolidge playing Mrs. Voorhees
Pamela Voorhees.
Yeah, like what that situation.
I won't, Jason. I won't. Wow. God.
I just love the idea of her kind of going like, because like she would play it more of like, yeah, did you hear about that young boy who drowned? Yeah, I think his name was Jason. Because she would play it like trying to remember what the story is, and then like slowly reveal the information, and then be like,
he should have been watched every minute. He would. He wasn't a very. I can't. He wasn't a very good swimmer.
as opposed to the New England way that Betsy says, he wasn't a very good swimmer. We can go now, dear.
Next.
Chris Darkcolor. Man with hooks was holding a box of mannequin hooked hands and stiffing a stranger's hair at the same time. Instant death. Mendejito. Creep, weirdo must go. At least Evan was shirtless and had perfect nipple placement, baby.
Oh, really? I didn't even notice.
Yeah, there's a few people that are like into him. I wasn't.
No, there are other guys in the franchise I am, but not him.
No, even in that movie.
I'm all about the detective. What is he? A detective? An officer?
Whatever. Yeah, whatever his name was.
The guy in brown.
The guy who got the log, through him in the potential scenario.
I was just gonna make an unsavory comment about putting a log through him myself, but I'm not.
Well, you kind of did.
I didn't do it in context, so it doesn't count.
You did, though, kid. Mark Burrows. I'm going to say both of them, as Evan was a Wally cooking with his shirt off, preparing food, and the hookman carrying around various hooks and boxes and unaware his health hazard to himself and others around him. So yeah, that's to both, I guess.
He was a Wally?
A Wally?
I don't get that.
A Wally. Like a WALLY? Wally? Like not a Wall-E, like the Pixar
Not
Wall-E.
like a Pixar Wally.
Wally.
Who loves watching Hello Dolly. No.
Yeah.
It was something else. Okay,
Yeah.
That's a term I don't get. Well, I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
Go on.
Blue Box. Evan was a douche, but it seems like no one actually loved or even liked him because of all the profit-seeking phone calls. The man with hooks was a clumsy freak. Not only he had no problem sniffing women, but he did it in public and in front of Eugene. How dare they? All these people, like, no consideration for Eugene, just doing all this perverse shit in front of Eugene. Can we start respecting Eugene? I remember being such a shit to everyone in the comments today. Jorgen Thrain Hansen, or is it Jorgen? I'll just
I don't know.
maybe one or the other. Hookman was the creepiest part of the movie by far. Was he? What do you think?
Wait, who? I'm looking up Wally. What?
Hookman was the creepiest part of the movie by far.
I mean, he creeped me out. Yeah. I think so for me.
Yeah.
How about you?
I don't remember.
It says right here, Wally is a basic British insult. If you're looking to criticize someone on their intelligence, this is an excellent choice to go with just because it basically means old. So a Wally is a Jethro.
Okay. But it's an English term. There's a lot of
It's an English.
We have a
Jethro.
lot of viewers / listeners over in the United Kingdom. There, it must be all the perfect accents that we do all the time.
Oh, of course. Oh, absolutely. Oh, no, I can't possibly do one.
Absolutely.
Hello, love. I don't know.
Hello, Governor. Freshen your drink for you. Investigative journalists.
We're investigative journalists.
There were a few other lines that we did from the movies too that we made.
The
we
Bobby,
made them
the
British.
Bobby from Trafalgar Square.
Trafalgar Square.
Trafalgar.
Oh, don't be a Wally. Call the Bobby from Trafalgar Square. We're investigative journalists. Oh, instead of I'll take. What was it? I'll take my payment. It was just my wages, if you please.
I don't think that there was that much of an exaggeration, but it was, yeah. I'll take my wages, if you please. And she like opens the door and turns away from them with her hand out.
Yeah, right. Just hand up. All right, next.
Alex,
We're never gonna get out.
Alex is lame. Hookman has got to go for being a creep and sniffing Nora's hair in the elevator, freaking weirdo. And to answer Eddie's question, my love for this movie is based on pure nostalgia. That's the best I got.
I can respect that.
Mr. K. Churns. The perv or the idiot? Going with the perv. DJ Eagle. I have to say, the man with hooks. Autumn Joe Staggs, the guy with the hooks was creepy and pervy, so he gets my vote. Evan was never long for this world anyway. He would have ended up doing something stupid and dying very soon. He doesn't need our help. I am Grunton, HGH. I think you proved pretty privilege. What did we prove? Did we prove something?
How did we prove
What did we prove? Pretty privilege.
Come forth. Explain yourself.
I like that alliteration, though.
Yeah,
Pretty privilege. Proving pretty privilege.
Maybe. I don't know. Well, maybe because more people weren't voting for yours, and people think he's pretty. I don't know.
Oh,
He's got. If he weren't as pretty, maybe people would.
well, he's got
think he was more of a Wally.
perfect nipple placement. Apparently. Didn't he have like a piercing too? There was like a nipple,
so, yeah.
a nipple ring or something. Yeah.
No, just not.
It's
my
just
bad. Not on
drawing
that
more
guy.
attention to the nipular area, or as Anna Faris says, the eyes are the nipples of the face.
Did Anna Faris say that first?
Anna Faris
I know.
said that in The House Bunny.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I've been crediting. There's a UK drag queen called Bimini over from RuPaul's Drag Race, who I love, and was playing someone who said the eyes are the nipples of the face. I thought it was her
Well,
who made up that. But you're right. Oh my
Bimini
God, I forgot that Anna
crickets.
Faris said
Yeah.
that. I think it's Bimini.
Bimini boop.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Bimini bommity boop.
Yeah.
Yes.
2 more to go here. Nicholas
Go
Wetzel.
on.
Nicholas Wetzel, the man with hooks. He saw that braided ponytail and went emoji smirk, emoji Pinocchio nose. Evan was kind of jerky. But, okay, I'm just losing it here. Evan was kind of jerky, but he was on his lottery win / surviving giant accident high, so I'll give him a pass. Maybe he would have paid to have his apartment deep cleaned. I mean, probably not, but I guess we'll never know now, will we? Plus, all the voicemails left on his phone were hilarious. And Matthias Eggerman hooked on a feeling and smelled her hair.
Okay.
A little punning there.
I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Okay. Shit.
Shite.
I wish there were shite.
Yeah.
I wish there were a creeper. I mean, I guess maybe to some people, Mark would be a creeper in this, but I don't see him that way.
Prowler. The Prowler. The what was the Phantom Prowlers tonight?
The Phantom Prowler. But no, I won't choose him because I adore how he grows in this movie, and I think he does with courage on his side.
Yeah.
But because I mean, honestly, I tell people every week, or almost every week, that I remember to vote their conscience and vote their heart. And honestly, the one who I feel the strongest about is someone who I think people won't remember. So the times I seem to do best are when I pick someone who is stuck in people's minds,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Yeah, I remember. I don't like that person." I don't know. What should I do? Fuck.
I don't know. I'm just trying to find the
But who are
name. I don't know who you're going for, so I'm just I honestly haven't given it much thought, so I'm just like sort of grabbing a name out of a hat here, but I don't even know.
All right, I'm not going to give in. If I lose, I lose. I'm choosing Dr. Moore because it's completely what's the word I'm looking for? Unprofessional and unethical to betray the confidence of a patient of yours by going outside the system and contacting people who are probably like golfing buddies of yours. You know, they're probably all hanging out at the country club together. Mm-hmm. And to tip them off when she's going through something, like he didn't offer her help. He reached out to other people who were going to aggressively offer their own version of help to her, which was a threat from the courts and everything like that. So, yeah, I think he's a douche. He's the one who bothered me the most in this movie. I thought going in that it was going to be Dan's mom because she is kind of memorable as a douche. But while I was watching her, I was like, she sucks. Like, there's no argument there. But she is emotional at that particular juncture. She is grieving her son. She didn't get a chance to like apologize afterwards or anything like that. Maybe she would have. We don't know. So, I mean, is what she did really worth killing her for? No, I remembered hating her more than I actually hated her in the screening. So I'm going with the doctor. Who are you choosing?
Well, thanks so much for taking the piss out of my nominee, but yeah, I'm going to go with Dan's mom, Mrs. Jordan. Apparently, and you know, for I guess the argument that you laid out, not as passionately as I would have, but it's essentially just watch the fucking Melrose Place storyline because you're describing Dr. Kimberly Shaw calling up the Carters to tell them that Joe's baby is still alive and wasn't actually stillborn.
But he didn't go through what Kimberly went through. Kimberly I don't know. Yeah, go on.
Oh, I'm just like, since we're just talking about it, I want like a horror movie reimagining of Melrose Place. I want them to like take all the characters of Melrose Place, and I guess they'd like recast everyone, but just like set it in like the complex, but it's like a horror movie. Uh-huh. Yeah, whatever. I mean, like slasher. I don't know. But
at times it was, or at least a thriller. There were moments.
Oh, it was, and it was usually Kimberly, Dr. Shaw. Yes. AKA our beloved Marsha Cross, was the big bad. She was the one who was like blatantly killing people, or at least like putting them in mortal danger and stealing babies and trying to like didn't she try to give Jack Wagner the lobotomy or like drill into his skull? Yeah. Because she was Betsy or whatever, the multiple personalities.
She had dissociative identity.
Oh my God, it's amazing. Yes, there are horror elements
with her bangs and her headband. Yeah,
which apparently was the impetus for Mark Sherry to create the character of Bree and cast her on Desperate Housewives.
Yeah. Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Oh,
to me.
absolutely. But yeah,
who wouldn't want to cast her after seeing her on?
I want my horror movie version of that show. But if there was a horror storyline, because I remember the creepy older couple who were trying to steal Joe's baby, like that was pretty horrifying. And they were always having nightmares. Like I remember like Jake in particular, they always had these larger than life, like big nightmares where like they're just almost like Ally McBeal esque moments where these horrible things would happen and they wake up and they're like, oh, we're fine.
We're hot.
Yeah. Everyone's pretty privileged, you know.
Pretty privilege.
Pretty privilege allows you to afford these. These
had Marsha Cross played Dr. Moore, then I probably wouldn't be voting for her because I think there's a sexual bias with me.
And she's pretty.
I like watching women. I like watching women behave badly in this saga. I don't like it when the men behave badly in this saga.
I like women behaving badly in general. What's the Bette Davis quote?
You wouldn't. I don't. Something about women behaving
something
badly.
like that. I don't know. I'm sure there's many. And then there's the infamous one, like Joan. My mother always taught me to never speak bad of the dead. Joan Crawford is dead. Good.
Good. Yes.
All right.
Which is a direct quote. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, vote your heart, vote your conscience. You're either voting for Dr. Moore or Mrs. Jordan. The poll is available on Instagram at the Cherry Picker Pod, so go follow us there. It is also open on YouTube in the post section, so follow us if you're watching on YouTube. If you want to listen to us instead, the RSS feed link is in the descriptions down below. And you can also head over to Patreon. You don't have to subscribe, but you can throw an extra vote in the poll there. It's free for everyone, so head over there. But if you do go over there, maybe consider sticking around and throwing a little support. It's very much appreciated. Edward, where can they find you on social media?
Who was the cherry on top for Freddy versus Jason? Was it Mrs. Voorhees, the Freddy Mrs. Voorhees? I feel like it was her. Let them know what fear tastes like. Was that her?
I don't know.
I think we did. I think we made her. So somebody else got...
Okay, look, if you want to... We can find this out very easily because Amethyst
on the
Frost
spreadsheet, yes,
has a spreadsheet, and I'm pretty sure he updates it regularly. So you could just go back and look to see who the cherry picker on top. He also, anytime that there's like added nuances, so anytime we assign a zodiac to a character, he keeps track of that as well. I don't think we got. Hilarious. I don't think we figured out. You know what is Freddy's? Sign.
Oh,
who
God! I ain't touching that one.
Maybe we'll deal with that with the next movie because we'll need things to talk about. So
I have plenty to say. About Freddy's Dead. Anyway, you can find me on Instagram. Pretty much that's the only place I am these days. Edward is Truth, one word, traditional spelling. How about you, Zach?
You can find my main YouTube channel, Zach Cherry, on YouTube. And Instagram is Retro Bitch Face. Twitter, Zach Cherry 8. Letterboxd, Zach Cherry. I think that's it. So yeah, there we go. Not sure. We haven't even discussed what we're doing next week. We're making it up as we go along. But we will, you'll know when it
happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll be sensational as it usually is. But anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and we will be right back.